Hi, Anna. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, Emily. I'm super excited to be here. I love your podcast.
Thank
I've
you.
yeah, I've gotten so much good stuff and out of it, and you've interviewed so many interesting people, and now me. Oh my gosh.
And now this is actually a long overdue conversation happening at the perfect time, I trust. And just for those who don't know you yet, let's start with I know you started out as an artist and, of course, are still an artist. And then at some point transitioned into the work you do now as a soul guide, healer, coach, whatever language we can find for the awesomeness you do and that you give to the world. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about that transition for you.
Wow. Well, it was a hard one. Um, yeah, I went to art school. It took me forever to get my undergraduate degree, but I worked at it. It was, I mean, like it took me forever. Like I graduated when I was like, it took me like 13 years. And so then I worked as an artist. I even had a decorative painting business. I painted murals in people's houses in California, and um I did metal work, and I built architectural ironwork and furniture, and then I just really wanted to like double down and see if I could make it as a fine artist, doing exhibitions and et cetera, et cetera. And I applied for this amazing grant out of San Francisco. I was living in the Bay Area, and it was a Creative Work Fund grant, and it was all based on a concept. And you worked with a nonprofit in your community, and you created a community focused event, not event, but um, artwork essentially. And gosh, it's called social practice, I think is what it's called. I don't even remember anymore because I'm so out of the art world. But it's like where you bring in the community and they have a stake in it. And I wrote this really kick-ass proposal, which was to really look at the story of the real housing market crash, because where I had owned a house and had ended up short selling a house was like the hardest hit county in all of California and perhaps in the whole nation in terms of the foreclosure crisis. And the story that they were telling in the news was not the story that was happening to the people.
What?
Surprise!
Shocking.
Who who knew that the mainstream media would lie to us?
Shocking.
I know. And I knew that it was different because I was living it and had lived it. And so I wanted to do a documentary storytelling project. I got this great grant. I got paid. I've partnered with the nonprofit in this little town that I had previously lived in. And I did this 1 year long project. I created an exhibition, a catalog, a documentary, which I had never done before, like a 45-minute documentary. And I worked myself so hard, and I'll get back to this. But anyway, I was like, I'm on the verge of making it because if I got this grant, the Creative Work Fund grant, oh my God, sky's the limit. Like, I'm in. Like, this is it. The show opened, went right at my 40th birthday. Talk about like timing of all the things. Um, but what was happening in my body was that I was like running on fumes, burning myself out. My self-talk was awful, dealing with tragic perfectionism and literally like pain in my body. And so I turned 40, opened the show, and kept applying for new things, and nothing. I got zero hits on any of my future ideas. And then, like, it's getting painful. Like, my feet hurt so bad. I can hardly walk anymore. And I'm walking, but it's like torture. I mean, everything's starting to fall apart in my body. And I'm like, nope, we're not going to look at that. We're not going to look at that. And it was really spirit like knocking super loud at the door. And the only way spirit would get my attention was through a physical crisis. And so there was a super stressful event in my husband's family. And that was like the last thing that my body could take. It couldn't take anymore. And I just went into a total like adrenal wipeout and collapse. I couldn't sleep for days, weeks on end. I was super, super depressed. I was just crying all the time. I was in so much pain. And my everything inside of me was like, you like I wasn't worthy of doing like the small, and I knew, no doctor was going to do anything for me. They're going to give me antidepressants and tell me, to whatever, whatever. I was like, yeah, you can go shove off. We're not doing that. There's something actually wrong in my body. And so it took forever to finally like pay out of pocket because I wasn't worthy of it, pay out of pocket to go see a kinesiologist. And that was the start of like trying very slowly to rebuild some physical things. But in that time, it just kept like spiritually, the crisis was just compounding and compounding and compounding. And that was really the second dark night experience of my adulthood. And and it was the first one that I did with a level of consciousness where I could say, there's something else going on here. And I'm being asked to surrender to something. I'm being asked to surrender my will. And I realized that all of the art making I had ever done in my life was to receive love and appreciation and praise and to get my, worthiness bucket filled externally. And I just, it just was killing me. It was literally killing me.
Mm.
And so I made a deal with God at the time, my version of God at the time, which has really greatly evolved over the last more than a decade. And it's like, God, do I still get to call myself an artist and not make art? Because I don't want to ever make art coming from that place again, ever. And I didn't make art for a long time. And I still don't even know if what I make now is I would consider art because I went to art school. I have an art degree, and all the things, and it's supposed to be conceptual and it's blah 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 and this and that. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I still get to call myself an artist. But that was the beginning of a conscious journey with the Dark Knight. I wouldn't say that I did it exceptionally well, but
So through your own journey through the Dark Night, and we will come back to that theme, this is where you transformed into, I mean, yes, still an artist, and through your own healing journey,
yeah.
gathering the tools and resources and wisdom that then you started sharing with other people. And how did that
Hmm.
transition happen?
Oh God, that was messy and ugly. Shout out to Dr. Dave, my chiropractor in Belmont, in the Bay Area. If anyone's listening and you want his information, contact me. He's an amazing chiropractor, and he's towards the end of his career. But he and I are kind of on a shared spiritual journey, which I didn't realize at the time. Like we're in a parallel kind of journey. And he was doing some energy healing called Psyche. And I would go see him and I would be in tears because I was just like, everything is broken and everything hurts and nothing is working. I don't know what to do with myself. And if I'm not making something, I have no value,
Mm.
right? All of these things. So I am just in like turmoil, inside and outside turmoil. And he says, I'm doing this energy healing work called Psyche. Why don't you come over and just sit in? I have nothing to hide. Sit in on this session with me. And so Psyche is primarily at its basic level about reprogramming limiting beliefs and creating a whole brain state, left right hemispheric integration, conscious mind, unconscious integration, so that you are the most resource, so that you have the most capacity to deal with your life and to create what you want to create. It's a beautiful modality. And it also goes into some really esoteric places. But I sat in his living room, and so he's repeating these basically what are called goal statements in Psyche, which are affirmations like, I'm worthy of the best that love and life have to offer. And every single one that he said, and then there's other things, the healer's on the other end of the line, muscle testing and doing things. I can't see that. I just hear him saying these statements. And everyone was like, I was getting punched in the stomach. He said I left there like a deer in the headlights because I was like, whoa, my inner landscape is really messed up. It's fucked 6 ways from Sunday. It's bad in there. And that was maybe in the fall, like October-ish. And I made a resolution by the end of this year, Anna, you're going to find your own Psyche healer and you're going to do some freaking work. And this is your gift to yourself
Yeah.
because you can't keep going like this. And then the person that I found is the amazing Sharon Weaver, who's also at the end of her career. She's here in New Mexico. She's also an amazing energy healer. And I did a couple sessions with her, and she was like, you need to learn how to do this. And I was like, I'm an artist and I'm paying you to fix me. Right? I
Right.
was,
Right.
yeah, like this is how this works. This is a transaction. I pay you, you fix me, and then we're both happy, right?
Right. Win-win.
Exactly. And she was like, yeah, no, that's not what's happening here. And because I have an insane amount of curiosity, I was like, fine, I'll learn your silly techniques. Which I was actually right away, like in a Psyche workshop, my first, Psyche basic, right at the same time I started working with Sharon. And then learned the emotion code. And then it's just been like unfolding since then. And yeah, just keep learning new things, keep like relying on intuition. And, honestly, like one of the most healing powers that I have actually is my ability to attune to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's, I think, what I really do is listen super, super deeply, reflect back, offer my intuitive guidance. Yeah, we use some tools, but the real healing is relational, and you do it by showing up.
And was that a big leap to start working with clients?
Oh, yeah, totally. Totally. So then my Dr. Dave was like my first client, and then I roped in my cousin, and you know how it goes. You're just like, let me test this out on you. And of course, working up with myself relentlessly, like, releasing, 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 clearing, 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 balancing, 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 going, 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 coming back, doing another level, another deeper, kind of just, yeah, absolutely. It was a big leap. All along the way, little kind of angels popping in to like, help me, find my first client. And then before I know it, I have an online business. I'm like, I never intended to have an online business. What is that about? Okay, well, I guess I have an online business. So, yeah, it's been
Yeah.
quite an unfoldment.
Yeah. And I think that's a kind of classic healer's journey where we start out working on ourselves and get into the tools and the
Yeah.
possibilities because we need them, and
Yep.
then find they're so powerful we need to share them,
Yeah.
and yeah, spread the love. But
Mhm.
I really appreciate how you described that. It described your state in that it, you said it was your second dark night of the soul, um, where on the outside you're doing great and being
Mhm.
successful and getting so much external validation, and then it's really like coping
Mhm.
above this inner turmoil and pain, and I would guess past trauma. And
So much.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so what a radical shift to
Mhm.
turn your attention toward the pain and the
Yeah.
suffering and be willing to work through it.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of
Yeah.
courage.
It got, and this is what happens in the dark night is it gets to the point where courage or no courage, it just has to happen because the resistance to it is so painful. Like to resist the process at a certain point, like I just ran out of energy, and it just became like, okay, this is it. I'm in it. Surrender.
Right.
Please tell me that there is something on the other side of this, because this is really hard and I'm scared. And I did not have a lot of support. I was still like putting on my good face of like, let's try to make a happy home, and yeah, let's go hang out with friends, even though like I'm dying inside, dying. Like literally, I was dying. Parts of myself were dying. And I still kept, performing and pretending in certain, arenas that I was okay when I was not okay. I was not okay. And that doesn't mean I was unsafe, but I look back and it's like I didn't have the support that I needed. And that's a really huge factor in going through the dark night, is that we really do need this. Is like we need people. We need our family, our soul family.
And yet you made it through to the other side and found, sounds like you found support, found the
Yeah.
support to get you through. Yeah. How
Yeah.
how would you describe the difference between a dark night of the soul and just like going through a rough time. I mean, are there
Mhm.
particular characteristics of the dark night that you can identify?
Yeah, I definitely. There is, I think a huge part of it is the ego death that needs to happen in the dark night. So, yes, we all go through hard times. We have grief, we have loss, we have illness, we have etc. Like so many different things, create the challenges of life that we all experience. But I think that a dark night is really inviting you into a new understanding of who you are, what you came here for, which is never clear in the dark night, by the way. Like that, like it only comes clear on the other side of it, in my opinion and experience. But it's asking us to shed and release and kill off. In some ways, we almost have to do the killing to murder aspects of our previous way of living that is completely not okay for us anymore to keep doing. So that ego death is a way of describing that. And I mean, there's something about meeting, like you said, like meeting the pain, like leaning into the knife edge of the pain in a way that just feels different from, you know, I like something like, the death of someone really close to you can kind of spur on your own dark night, but it isn't necessarily because they died. Right. And so, like, yes, we grieve and there's loss. And that can be kind of like I see this most recent Dark Night as like that was the catalyst was really the death of my stepfather. And then things just kind of like energetically snowballed from there. But he could have died and I might not have gone into a dark night. I would have grieved and it would have been hard and sorrowful, but it wouldn't necessarily have been that kind of experience.
Mhm. And I've heard you say, and I agree with this in concept, but I'd love to dive into it more, that collectively we're going through a dark night. And I guess when you talk about ego death and killing off who you used to be to become somebody new, I think about what's happening astrologically right now, and specifically the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries. Aries, the I am, the self,
Mhm.
and Neptune, the dissolution of the old self. And there's a new self that's coming in that's still mysterious. So
Mhm.
yeah, speak to what do you see? What are you seeing in terms of the collective and that dark night experience that maybe
Yeah.
we're all in?
Yeah, dissolving is a really good word for it. And it is really right on point. So, um, for thousands of years, we've been fed many lies about who we are, what we are, how powerful we are. You and I don't even know how powerful we are, and we have inklings, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't even know. We don't know the extent of it. And so, this is such a rebirth opportunity over this next year. And then of course, like that's just going to be the cosmic thing, and then we still have to unpack it and integrate it into our being. But so collectively, we've been numbed out, dumbed down, um, made to believe that we have to source our power outside of ourselves, our holiness outside of ourselves, our divinity outside of ourselves, our purity, our worthiness, all of these things. And unpacking that is a massive journey. It's going to take us a while, but I think the astrology is here to really help us. But what's going to happen is, though, what I hope and sense, and I hope, and when I say hope, it's still going to be really painful and it's going to create a lot of dissonance. But on the other side of that is our liberation, is our freedom. But what I'm hopeful for is that all of these structures that we have consciously and unconsciously and primarily unconsciously place so much authority in, like outsource our authority to, are literally going to crumble at our feet. And the wake up call is going to be painful. It's going to be confusing, but it's going to allow us to reassemble a different version of who we are collectively and individually. This is what I learned in the third dark night, which I'm still kind of in. Thanks, Pluto squaring my freaking moon forever and ever during my Chiron return.
Not
Good
forever,
times.
not forever, just a long time.
Just feels like forever. But this this what I learned this third time is I got shattered in this dark night, completely shattered. And what I realized, I had this kind of like sort of mini vision, this revelation, was that I was putting the pieces of myself back together, but I was, one, they don't all fit the same, which they shouldn't, and that's perfect. But two, it was like I'm putting them inside out. So like where all of my love and my tenderness and my compassion and all of my just sweet love was on the inside, I'm putting those pieces together on the where that's on the outside of me. And I am much more consciously moving through the world from that place of love, and just like, how can I bring love into every interaction? How can I bring love into washing the dishes and resealing my roof? Oh, it's hard. It's like it's an intense spiritual practice, but this is collectively like what we can also do when we put the pieces back together. Let's turn them inside out so that what's showing on the outside is that more beautiful world that we all know is possible. The beautiful world that we all dream about in our hearts, in our minds. Like, wouldn't it be great if, well, guess what? Like, this is what's possible for us on the other side of this collective dark night. And it's beautiful, but it's going to be a hell of a shattering to get there. Potentially, as one way of looking at it.
Right, as it usually is, because we as humans, we tend to resist change, and we want the comfort and security. And as we know, everything happening out there is not secure, not comfortable.
No.
And just in terms of what you've learned through your personal navigation of, you're saying, 3 dark nights, what is useful? What can you tell people? Like, if we consider that we're all going through it collectively,
Mhm.
how can we benefit from your experience of going
Mm.
through this personally? What are your tips for navigation? How do we get to that liberation on the other side?
One of the tenets in my work that I do with people is around radical curiosity. If you can be really curious and really open, and if we can all stop saying that this is good and this is bad,
Mm.
this is just what is. And what is might be really extraordinarily painful. And I'm not saying that it isn't. It might be extraordinarily painful. But can I be curious about this situation that I'm in? Or can we collectively be curious about what we're experiencing? Can I open my perspective beyond the pain, beyond the dis-ease, discomfort, disillusion? Can I open my perspective beyond the illusion and be in that beginner's mind, the Buddha beginner's mind, like the not knowing? I really don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in my life tomorrow, much less do I know what's going to happen in the collective. I have strong ideas and preferences, but again, that's me calling something good and something bad. And so, how can we disidentify with things being wrong or right, good or evil, which honestly is super challenging, because I do think that there is a battle going on for our consciousness and our spiritual power. And I do think that there is evil stuff happening in the world. So I'm not saying pretend that there isn't, but just open up and say, what is possibly happening here? Because many of us, not, I don't think of myself in this way, and I don't think of you in this way, but many of us are still entrenched in the us versus them, in the that's bad and wrong and this is good and right, and all of these high holy moral perspectives, which I think are are really manipulated by media and all of these other things, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where this radical curiosity, which is what we need to get above that. And if we can see everything as theater,
Mhm.
as just a metaphor, whether you choose to believe it's theater or not is up to you. But if you can just take as a thought experiment, what is unfolding here? What is this character doing? What is that character doing? Because this is what it is. We're all characters. They're all characters. And just how do we just open up? And this requires a lot of courage, and it requires ego death, because my ego says that's wrong and bad. That's bullshit. That's whatever. That's good. That's what we want. And so it requires all of us to step aside from that, even if it's for 5 minutes in a day. Because, let's face it, we have egos. This is part of the journey. This is like, it's not reality to say, like, I'm going to transcend all of this. We have to work with it. And then the other thing is like really surrendering to a process, to an unfoldment. And it's going to be potentially, it could, I mean, if a personal individual dark night is scary, like it's probably going to be scary collectively. I mean, it already is scary out there. Kind of look, it's kind of like, what the hell's going on? This is weird. It's weird right now. And so surrendering to saying like, this is a process that's unfolding. And I don't have a lot of control over it, but I do have control over how I meet it. Again, openness and curiosity, tending my nervous system, seeking out support, people who are of like heart and like mind, which is also problematic because we also need to talk above the talking points. And if we're only talking in our silos to people who believe the same as us, we're not going to get to that more beautiful world that we all know is possible. So that's a side note, ranting. And then like trusting that there's something on the other side of it. So whether that's a higher power, whether that's us claiming our own innate power, like what I've uncovered in the individual dark night journey is that gifts come in spades on the other side of it. Soul gifts, spiritual power, inner wisdom, intuition. So many things light up once you're willing to be with your shadow, with your darkness, with your pain. And so, and it only compounds for me. Like I'm still in the tail end of the third one, and I'm like, oh, goody. Like, what do I get on the other side? Like, what magical powers am I going to have on the other side? Because my powers are pretty awesome right now, but like, holy cow, like, what's available that I can't even conceive of? And if I can just surrender a little bit more, can I just surrender a little bit more? Okay, it's really hard. I'm really scared. But what else is out there? What's waiting for me?
Can we talk about surrender a little more? Because it's like, how do we surrender? Because there's the
Yeah.
kind of collapsing surrender, or like eh, being sort of bowled over, overwhelmed, and oh, it's all too much, and I'm just not going to deal, kind of
Yeah,
maybe toxic mimic of surrender. And then
totally.
there's conscious surrender, which I know is what you're talking about. And so this sense of, I guess what I hear is like allowing the process, which of course requires
Mhm.
trusting the process. But yeah, can you kind of flesh out
Totally.
more about surrendering, what that looks like?
Yeah, I feel like surrender is probably the lifelong learning that I came here to figure out. It's so hard for me. It's so hard. It's probably hard for everybody. But so at 40, the surrender was that kind of like I'm clawing my way down the tunnel, like into the depths of my psyche and my soul, and I don't want to go there, and it's really scary. And then finally, exhaustion just takes you, and you just whoosh, go down to the bottom. And what happens is that there's actually a trampoline at the bottom, but you don't know that when you're like clawing and resisting and resisting and resisting. And it's like, no, it's so painful. I can't do it. And I'm not going to say that I didn't do that in my third dark night, because there were definitely days where I was like, no, God, no, not again. Please, not again. This was so hard. But there were more times, and some of the times was like, F you, I surrender. Okay, that's kind of like not really surrendering. And I still do that a little bit. I'm trying to be more conscious about it. I'm becoming more conscious. But then the conscious surrender is really having that really stern, perhaps, conversation with yourself, with higher power, with higher self, of like, okay, I'm gonna show up for this. I'm really scared. Please, like, show me that it's okay to surrender. And then like a friend texts you or something like that, or like, or you go out into nature and you just feel like that connection with life again that seemed to have been missing in the darkness. And for me, it's a process of literally moment by moment that I'm noticing that I'm starting to spin out, literally saying, I'm going to choose to surrender. I love like Tosha Silver's God box, like writing something down. I've been doing it mentally for years since I read it in Outrageous Openness several years ago. And then finally, I think just a few days ago, I was like, this is such a pretty little box. I think I'm just going to use this and write up little things because I've been just doing a visualization. Okay, God, here's the thing. This is bigger than me. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I'm a Gemini. Do I do this? Do I do that? Like, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to put it mentally in the box. And so now I literally have it on my kitchen counter. There's my little God box. This is the process. This is what we're doing. And it's a practice. This is not a one and done. It's honestly, it's hard. I feel like I'm constantly asked every single day to surrender multiple things, and it's like, this is a lot. How do people do life?
Indeed. That's why we're having this conversation, to talk about how people do life, how we do life as a start. I think the God box is a great practice. Like, it gives us a tangible practice for surrender. Like, I don't have
Yeah.
the answer. I can't figure this out. I'm turning this over to the divine.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do in this
Hmm.
moment. Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
think the impulse to control is so strong.
Yeah.
We're so conditioned to think that
Yeah.
we need to have all the answers, we need to be on top of things, we need to be in control. And of course, we're not. Well, we have control over a very small
Yeah.
realm. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And of course, the control that comes from a less than savory childhood where everything was out of control, which is really true for a lot of us. And actually, like, it's true for every child. It doesn't matter how good enough your parenting, was for your kids. Like, kids are out of control. They are under the control of their caregivers. They're literally out of control. So, you know, as the psyche develops and all the developmental stages that a human being goes through, like, control, it's a really big deal. It's also how we individuate, right? It's like we think that we can control things. But when it comes to perfectionism, like I was battling, in such a huge degree, trying to control every detail, trying to control the details in my marriage so that my husband wouldn't leave me, all of those, whatever the ways that I was trying to control, and just how much energy that takes. And so surrender takes energy, but it takes so much less energy. I mean, it's like 10% when I think back to like trying to micromanage all the facets of my life so that I could feel safe. When it was just like, yeah, I mean, I had the realization, I don't know, 2 years ago ish, when I was finally alone after like he moved out, my husband moved out, my dad moved in, I became his caregiver for 5 months, and then finally I'm like alone for the first time in decades, decades. And I had the realization, wow, this is what it feels like to feel safe. I only
Mm.
feel safe when I'm alone.
Hmm.
Holy shit.
Hmm.
And that control, like how much energy, no wonder my adrenals are tanked. It's like it takes so much energy to control all of these scenarios in our lives, and we do it so unconsciously. And so having this conscious process of surrender, like, okay, what am I in resistance to today or right now? Okay, there it is. All right, I'm going to give this over to God, Goddess, Spirit, Universe, all that is. It's bigger than me. It's so much bigger than me when what my little mind can do. My
Hmm.
big mind that's connected to everything. has a lot more resource. But the
Hmm.
little mind is the one that's trying to control.
Right. And trying to control through identifying what's right, wrong, good, bad. Like, this brings me back to what you were saying about radical curiosity and opening up to
Mhm.
see beyond the black, white. And it seems like that pattern is a way for our minds to
Yeah.
operate under the illusion of control, because then I know
Yep.
I can identify that that's bad and that's
Hmm.
good,
Right.
and that
Right.
makes me feel safe. And also the identification of who I am, and kind of grasping onto that as a way
Hmm.
of trying to get control,
Absolutely.
where it can be. And again, coming back to what's going on with Saturn and Neptune, and we're really in that Saturn Neptune conjunction for, the next year, pretty much in Aries, the self, where disidentifying with who we think we are is actually incredibly powerful and
Hmm.
liberating, but also that's an act of surrender.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to use the artist example, but listener, use anything that comes to mind for you. But like, if I'm not an artist, then who am I? If I'm not a woman, then who am I? If I'm not an American, then who am I? If I'm not whatever age I am, whatever thing I do, whatever. Um, One thing I just like back up just a second, and then I want to get back into this identity thing and disidentifying, but to just like give ourselves some grace and some compassion. Like, there's an evolutionary reason why things are good and bad. Lion in the grass stalking you, bad. Scary, you know, get up into the tree so that you can be safe, right? Like, there's a real reason why we do that also, that's like hardwired, I think, into our biology. And we are in this beautiful time of awakening beyond that kind of like limited lizard brain biology, where more of us is coming online. And I think that's what's waiting for us on the other side of this, collective dark night. But then coming back to like the identification, and one of the things that I'm so curious about is, well, as essentially I'm a sociologist at heart, and I'm a philosopher, and I'm a contemplative, and I'm all these other things. But I really am so curious about the effects of the 5-year COVID experiment on the human being, on us relationally, and those effects down the line. But also, like, one of the things that came out of that was people being forced to look at themselves. And then, of course, going to YouTube and reading and listening and viewing about trauma and about trauma responses. And we've become, as a culture, armchair trauma, knowledgeable, right? Which is, I don't think, inherently a bad thing, except for our proclivity to label everything. And so now we are pathologizing ourselves and each other constantly. Oh, this person's a narcissist, or that person has BPD, or I've got BPD, or blah 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 blah, blah, or like whatever. And that in itself, I think, is really unfortunate, because it's so fabulously good at undermining our personal power and our sovereignty. It's so good. It's like they couldn't have orchestrated it any better. They, we, us, whoever did that.
Right. Right. It
Yeah.
keeps us in tidy little
Yep.
boxes,
Mm-hmm.
when we're so much
Mm-hmm.
more than that. We're so
Yeah.
beyond the labels.
So beyond the labels. The other thing too is that it keeps us in this hyper vigilant loop of, I have to heal something. I'm not good enough yet. So I have to keep healing something, which is ironic for a healer to say publicly. But the reality is that we can take that hypervigilance that made us control everything else and just turn it right to face ourselves. And then we become hypervigilant about our healing journey, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, psychological, whatever's up for you for the day. Well, if I just get this one thing right, then I'm going to fix this.
Right. It's another expression of the perfectionism that you were
Yes,
speaking to. I have to
absolutely.
be perfect. I have to, yeah, before I
Hmm.
can do XYZ. I have to fully heal myself. And as we both know, we're working with people, we're practicing, we're teaching, we're doing our thing. And we, we're not perfect. We've still got our stuff. We're very messy. Got plenty of stuff that we're working with.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big illusion, big trap.
Mm-hmm.
So any other tips for navigating the collective dark night that you can think of? And I love that you started with radical curiosity, such a good Gemini.
Totally.
Yeah, very Gemini of you.
Totally. Nature connection. I know that I will speak for me. I need like an unlimited supply of nature connection. Like I need it 24/7 in like just intravenously. Please just get it inside of me. And I do believe that the earth has some kind of massive role to play in this, and that our relationship with the earth is a piece of this. And I don't have all the answers, but just go outside. Put your feet on the ground. Unless you live where I live, where there's a lot of stickers.
And I think this is also a good place for radical curiosity, because I think just as we don't really understand who we are and what we're capable of, I don't think we really understand what the earth or who the earth is and what nature is capable of. And so bringing our very open, curious minds to receive what the earth has to teach us. And I think, that's an amazing resource at this time, and also to like rework our relationship with the earth. And there's a lot of healing that wants to happen there after however many, thousands of years of humans not being in right relationship with the earth. That's yeah.
And if consciousness is permeating everything, the earth, that tree, that stone, that water, which it kind of appears that it is, it's looking that way, that consciousness is everything and everywhere, then how can I expand and open my consciousness to be more, how do I tune into that? How do I tap into that? How do I surrender my sense of self to the point that I can connect in with the environment, with you, with my beautiful dog, your cat, whatever, and on a whole new way. And that, I think there's so much healing power in that kind of connection. And, just again, we kind of got to get over ourselves. And I'm saying that to myself first and foremost. Like, I need to get over myself. There's a whole world of possibility, literally, a whole galaxy universes of possibility. And I think it's waiting for us to expand into, wake up to.
And to deepen through, so we can get there. As that idea that the deeper we go inside, then the farther out we can expand.
Right.
And people tend to love the expansion and not love the deepening in so much.
Totally. Yeah. We're not talking about transcending and eliminating the body, the physicality. We're talking about embodying to a much more radical degree. Like our energy, like sending your energy down into the earth is going to be so much more useful for that expansion than just like send my consciousness way up there, way out there. Let's go to Mars. Okay, Elon, how about we actually like go into the earth first? Right. So I definitely am with you big time on like the earth is our ally, and we actually can't do any of the other stuff without her. And I think she has something I think she's going to be talking to us pretty overtly about how we can get back into that right relationship and be of the highest service and the highest good. So,
yeah. Well, those are excellent suggestions, and we might need to consult you as we get deeper into this collective dark night. We might need to revisit and think about some more resources, but that's a great starting place. And before I let you go, let people know how to find you And you do work with clients, and maybe say a little bit
Mhm.
about how you work with clients, how you support people, and then we can say a little bit about our offering that's coming up too.
Yeah, totally. I know. I'm so excited. We have such great collaborations. I live outside of Santa Fe and I steward a little slice of paradise here. And so I work with clients remotely, but it's also possible for people to come do intensive, short kind of healing retreats with me. And they're very intuitive. The way that I work is always intuitively guided by the client. I never go in with my ideas about, oh, we need to fix this. Like, no, let's like see what's coming up. But I do energy healing, I do spiritual counsel and intuitive coaching, and bringing in creativity, nature connection, herbalism. I mean, there's just so many different ways, to do this work, and it's a process of it's a collaborative process of unfolding. So there's ways of doing kind of extended work with me or more intensive deep dives, and then you and I, Emily, are doing a fun series of women's circles, kind of half day retreats, starting in July and then one in September and one in November. And that's going to be another fantastic way to work with me, um, because Zoom trauma is real. And being together in the flesh is really powerful. And we know that because we did two last year and they were just really beautiful and luscious. And we're going to deepen into those basically and kind of take it further with the current astrology.
Hmm. Yeah, so we've got our first one coming up on July 12th, and the overall series we're calling Cosmic Navigation to Inner Guidance, Connection, Community, and Creativity. And when we were dreaming into these retreats, we were really feeling it like what do we need and what do our people need right now? And I think connection, community, creativity pretty much says it. We
Yeah.
need to be together in real life. We need to
Mhm.
be grounding into our own bodies and our own knowing and quieting the noise so we can hear ourselves. And this is part of the focus of our first one, which is really focused on Uranus moving into Gemini, which happens July 7th. First time in our life for most of us, since it's been 84 years since Uranus was in Gemini. And so the theme is know and express your revolutionary truth, and just really helping people both, I bring in the astrological understanding and working with your own birth chart to know where is Uranus Gemini going to activate your chart and how to work with it. But then Anna really bringing in the somatic awareness. We're going to do some herbal, you want to say
Mhm.
herbal meditation.
Yeah, we're going to call in an herbal ally and do an herbal meditation to help us ground while also opening up to that, that expansive curiosity. And we've, a big theme around Uranus and Gemini for all of us is going to be around discernment. So how do you know what is right for you? Well, your body tells you, right? And this is why nature is so important, is because we need to get out into nature so that we can feel our bodies more. Like this interface, like thank God for Zoom, but
Yeah. And
right? And there's more. But wait, there's more. So yeah, so I'm so excited about this series that we're going to do, and each one is going to be different, so it's going to be fabulous.
yeah, I'm really,
Fabulous.
really looking forward to that. Um,
Mhm.
so I'll put your website in the show notes, but in case people are listening on another platform, let people know how to find you.
Yeah, totally. Find me at my website, AnnaMKlint.com, and it's Anna with an E, ANNEMKLINT. I also have, if you're struggling with self-compassion and perfectionism, I have a free 10-day self-compassion challenge, which is just a lot of different tools to help you kind of start to see your thoughts, start to redirect those patterns, and start to turn the love lens towards yourself. Because most of us are so good about directing it outward and, being compassionate and loving towards others. And that's selfcompassion.rocks. So
Mm.
www selfcompassion, no dash, rocks because we're hardcore over here.
I like it. Okay,
So
great.
yeah, so join that. You just get an email a day for 10 days.
Cool.
Yeah.
We need more of that. I need
Mm-hmm.
more of that. Well, thank you so much, Anna. This has been a long overdue conversation, but yeah, I just so appreciate your wisdom and vulnerability and courage and just what your the heart that you bring to your work and to the world. And yeah, and I'm so grateful to get to collaborate with you and to be your friend. Yay.
Oh my
Lucky
gosh.
me.
I know. I'm so grateful too. This has been a really lovely opportunity to share with you. And I love your thoughtfulness. And I love that we're friends too. Like, what a gift.
What a gift.
We get to work together, work/play together.
Lucky
Yeah.
us. And
Mhm.
yeah, so check out Anna's work. And I hope to see some of you listeners in Santa Fe, July 12th or in September and November. We'll have the dates on the in the show notes. All right.
Totally. Okay. Bye,
Thank you,
sweetheart.
Anna. Bye for now.